Welcome to First Mover, your first global look at today's action in the Bitcoin, blockchain, and digital asset space. I'm your host, Christine Lee, and joining me are my co-hosts, CoinDesk Managing Editor of Global Capital Markets, Lawrence Lewitinn, and Managing Director of International Content, Emily Parker. Good morning. So Bitcoin is legal tender in El Salvador. Big news this morning.
It is indeed. It's a real thing. It's a real thing now. We have, it's
banking the unbanked. But it's not really moving Bitcoin that much. Checking in on Bitcoin, the CoinDesk Bitcoin price XBX index is currently trading at $34,867. Bitcoin is up about 5.8% over the past 24 hours. And the CoinDesk Ether price ETX index right now is slightly up at 1.3% at 25.37. The most reliable reference prices for institutions since 2014 are now published under the CoinDesk brand, trusted globally as the leader in crypto news, events, and data. So this is our top story, obviously. Bitcoin is legal tender in El Salvador. We have a photo of the bill. You know, this was announced over the weekend by President Bukele, and now it has been passed by the National Assembly there. That was pretty quick. 62 yay, 17 nay. Lawrence, pretty significant, but not really.
You talk to the Bitcoin maxis, and they're always talking about how, Elon Musk or Michael Saylor, those guys are giga chads. This guy made it legal tender in a country. He ran a country and just came up with the idea, and then within a few minutes, relatively speaking, got it passed through a legislature. So, who's the giga chad now, right? But the market just kind of, it responded okay, it took it positively, but it didn't go crazy. One of the things that did spike it up a little bit was this whole thing in China where there was a manufacturing inflation number that was up about 9%. That is kind of higher than expected, and we have to remember that for a lot of people, Bitcoin is still an inflation hedge narrative. So while there's the adoption narrative is one part, the inflation hedge narrative is another, yet it's still a relatively tepid bounce from its 2-week low, which happened yesterday. So the markets are like, okay, this is good, but
Right. Emily, maybe what are your thoughts on this passage, its significance as well? Are we seeing a bit of pressure, nevertheless, from what we're hearing out of China?
Yeah, so I actually agree with what Lawrence said. I think it's really interesting. I think it's a story in and of itself that this hasn't moved the markets more because, this was announced in Miami. This is a country deciding to use Bitcoin as a form of legal tender. This is like a huge deal if we're looking at the mainstream adoption narrative. And it seems like a couple of years ago, this would have moved markets. And now, relatively speaking, these market moves are small compared to what happens whenever Elon Musk tweets. So I really think that's a fascinating question as to why the market is not reacting more to this. As for China, yes, China, this is all part of the continuous narrative. Recently, Chinese authorities have clearly gotten more nervous about cryptocurrency for a variety of reasons. And so the latest is that if you search for Chinese cryptocurrency exchanges on Chinese search engines, you are not going to find them. And what this does is it presents a barrier to new users. These are new entrants into the cryptocurrency market who want to go trade, and they're going to have trouble finding these exchanges. So that's what China is doing. It's not making it impossible to trade crypto. It's just making it harder for new users to enter the market.
Right. It's a global industry, a lot of factors pulling the crypto markets back and forth. But hats off to Jack Mallers of Strike, as well as the Lightning and Blockstream folks for, keeping their heads down and building stuff. And we're seeing that right now. All right. So up next, we do have Adam back joining us to discuss this breaking news development out of El Salvador. He's the CEO of Blockstream, but first, we'll take a quick break.
CoinDesk Indexes, the market standard for crypto assets since 2014. Our trusted data powers billions in publicly traded funds. CoinDesk Indexes are the standard used by institutions, and they're the key for investors looking to understand and access crypto markets.
CoinDesk Bitcoin Price Index, XBX, has been instrumental to Grayscale, enabling investors around the world to access Bitcoin through a regulated, familiar product.
CoinDesk Indexes enabled the early adopters to build crypto investment vehicles, and they're already trusted by a new generation of global investors.
Welcome back. Time now for the daily forecast, an update on what's happening in the crypto markets in Asia. Here's Angie Lau of Forecast News.
Welcome to the Daily Forecast, June 9th, 2021. I'm Angie Lau. Let's get you up to speed from Asia to the world. First, China, now digital currency ambitions taking shape in Hong Kong. The city's monetary authority says it's now looking into the risks and benefits of using a digital Hong Kong dollar. The HKMA is launching a study to that effect and hopes to have some answers in a year's time. That's according to the authority's chief executive, Eddie Yu, who outlined those plans as part of Hong Kong's new fintech strategy. He said this was a way to, quote, increase our technical readiness. Though more broadly, some experts aren't entirely big on the growing number of cashless societies. I spoke to cryptocurrencies and civil liberties attorney and chair of the Filecoin Foundation, Marta Belcher, who voiced her concerns.
I think that people really need to understand that financial transactions are a window deep into someone's life, deep into their politics, deep into what they're doing, their location, and that these types of transactions are incredibly sensitive.
It's not just traditional currencies. Now even bank accounts are being viewed as a less favorable option, at least among Australian millennials. 22% of them believe that investing in crypto is a better way to grow their wealth instead. That's according to a survey by US-based crypto exchange Kraken. They also found that nearly 40% of Aussies born between the early 80s and mid-90s would prefer crypto over real estate as an investment option.
Millennials today, where salaries haven't increased at the same rate that is comparable with the increase in property prices, have basically gone to other markets to look for something that is like crypto. It's more volatile. There's much more upside.
But wait, what about boomers? Well, they remain cautious. 47% of them haven't invested in crypto over volatility concerns, the same volatility that might be a driver for millennials. Well, it's official. Bitcoin is a legal currency in El Salvador. BTC spiked on the news, settling up 3.8%. And in the top 10 for cryptocurrencies, a mostly green run across the board, save for Ethereum, which remained unchanged and in the red. Surprisingly, one of the biggest performers was just outside the bracket. Solana ended the day up 14.3%. And finally, before we go, UNICEF has announced it's going to be investing in 7 blockchain startups located across 6 countries, including India and Nepal. The UNICEF Innovation Fund, which was launched back in 2016, will be overseeing the funding. Now, companies will receive up to $150 $100,000 US, and 5 of them are actually choosing to receive part of that in Ether. They're also, however, working on blockchain-driven solutions for greater financial inclusion. It's estimated that some 1.7 billion people around the world don't actually have access to basic financial services like a bank account. We spoke to UNICEF's Cecilia Shapiro, who says blockchain has a unique role to play in financial inclusion, and she hopes the chosen projects will target the problem.
The solutions range from providing access to remittances, humanitarian cash transfers when it comes to emergency situations, a community currency, ability to loan and provide investment opportunities for underserved communities.
Serving the underserved with blockchain solutions. And that's the daily forecast from our vantage point right here in Asia. For more, visit forecast.news. I'm editor-in-chief Angie Lau. Until the next time.
The Crypto Markets Update is presented by Grayscale, the world's largest digital currency asset manager.
Time for a live look at Bitcoin. The CoinDesk Bitcoin price XBX index is currently trading at 34,932. Bitcoin is up about 6.4% over the past 24 hours, and the CoinDesk Ether price ETX index right now at 2534. ETH is slightly up about 1.2% over the past 24 hours. And joining us now to discuss the crypto markets is Greg King, founder and CEO of Osprey Funds, a digital asset manager in Connecticut. Welcome to the show, Greg.
Morning, Christine. How are you?
Good, thanks. All right, so we're getting some bullish news out of El Salvador, but it's, since the news was announced over the weekend, usually we would see, an announcement like this have Bitcoin and the crypto markets shooting up, but we're not seeing that right now. So I'm wondering if the market is undervaluing this news, or is it not that significant because it's a small country, or there are other factors at play, such as in China?
I think there's a lot of factors at play. I mean, this is certainly a significant announcement. I think if you go into behavioral finance and just apply some of the stuff people have learned around the stock market to significant news announcements that actually tend to be underdeveloped in terms of the market move. So it may take a little while for this really to sink in, the significance of what's happened with El Salvador. I also think, though, that Bitcoin as sort of a payment system, hasn't quite materialized the way that perhaps 10 years ago people might have imagined it would have. So folks are not entirely sure what the ramifications of this are, but I think it's a very big deal, especially because it's not likely to be the only country that makes this move.
So that's right. I mean, this seems like something that could spread throughout the world. We're already seeing other countries in Latin America indicating that they're thinking along the same lines. But you said, sometimes this takes a little time to sink in, but that's not true, for example, of Elon Musk's tweets, right? Like Elon Musk tweets something and then, Bitcoin reacts or Dogecoin reacts immediately. So I guess the question is like, why are memes affecting the market more than actual policies that could lead to Bitcoin mainstream adoption?
Great question. I don't know that I have the answer. I mean, maybe it's the marginal, price takers who react to things like memes and so forth. I think the serious money will consider news a little more carefully than just kind of auto-reacting to whatever Elon Musk happens to tweet out on a certain day. But I think the roll forward of Bitcoin and its progress is demonstrable in this announcement. I think it's a good thing for the ecosystem. And I'm very curious to see how it plays out with some of the additional countries that are talking about it. We got to remember that Bitcoin is still a relatively new asset, and to see that sovereign nations are taking it seriously this way is huge.
Greg, along those lines, I mean, you were talking about the marginal price takers who might be, react so severely to, say, a tweet, but nonetheless, it moves the market somewhat. It moves the price. Do you think that's spooking away institutional investors, this whole meme aspect of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, whereas the sort of fundamental things that you would see out of El Salvador might not move the market? You think institutions are looking at this and saying, wait a minute, this makes no sense. Maybe this isn't for us to put money in?
Sort of. I mean, I think that could be a reaction, but also the reality is you look at the volatility of Bitcoin. I mean, it's volatile. It has been for a long time. That hasn't changed. And professional investors look at an instrument like a Bitcoin, like any investment, in terms of the risk-reward ratio, right? The expected returns divided by the volatility, just to use a quick measure. And I think in that case, Bitcoin is still extremely compelling. So institutions don't tend to overreact to things like this. I think if there are institutions who were on the sidelines, I think they're probably looking at ways to get in now. That being said, of course, being down as much as 50%. From the all-time highs within just a few weeks, that's scary to people. And, as it should be. But at the same time, as of now, what are we, 35,000? I mean, Bitcoin is still up 75% above its previous all-time high of 20,000 that we crossed just at Thanksgiving 6 months ago. So it's really got to put it in context.
That's correct, Greg. But at the same time, if you're an institution, you don't want to be caught catching a falling knife, So it's a situation where they are looking at that, and the fact that it is down so much from that all-time high, and that sell-off seems to have been spurred on by these crazy tweets from the Tesla CEO. That wouldn't you think that would actually have a long-term negative impact on institutions? I mean, like what trading desks would want to propose getting into Bitcoin, for instance, if an institution has never been in it before, if there is this sort of risk factor involved that just throws out the fundamentals sometimes.
Yeah, I guess agree to disagree. It's I don't see the Elon tweeting risk as a new thing. I think that it's just one of the more recent examples, or forget Elon, just stuff happening in Asia over the weekend risk, just different events having a significant effect on the price of Bitcoin is not a new development. So institutions that are doing their homework have to realize this, right? And in the sense that, so we're long-term bullish. We believe in the use case for Bitcoin. We believe that it's here to stay. And so to us, this represents a potential buying opportunity. If you're sensitive to, let's say, quarterly earnings statements or things like that, maybe as an institution, you're not looking at this. But institutions that are establishing a position tend to dollar cost average in, and this would be a good time to be doing some of that.
Investors right now.
Sorry, the audio cut out there. I didn't catch that.
Yep. So right now, Osprey has a Bitcoin fund. What kind of activity are you seeing currently from institutional investors?
So the Bitcoin complex is interesting. You obviously have Grayscale's fund, which is out for a long time. Our fund is a couple years old, but we only established a ticker for it in February and began trading. Right around that time, there were a confluence of events where Canadian ETFs launched. A lot of people started filing for ETFs in the US because of Gary Gensler coming in. And so the whole complex started to trade at a discount. So from an exchange traded products perspective, it's kind of a new environment. What we are starting to see now, though, is where I don't know where our product OBTC is trading this morning, but it's been trading right around zero in terms of the premium, which is exciting to investors because then they don't have to pay a premium to get access to Bitcoin in an exchange traded format. So we have seen interest, although there was a significant amount of supply that went into Grayscale's product in the fall, and that overhang is still weighing on the market a little bit.
All right. Greg, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Appreciate your insights.
Great to be here. Thanks.
Right, that was Osprey Funds founder and CEO Greg King. Coming up, the founder of TechCrunch is selling his apartment as an NFT, and our global policy and regulation update with CoinDesk managing editor Nick Day.
CoinDesk Spotlight is brought to you by Nexo, the place to earn on Bitcoin, Ethereum, and more.
TechCrunch founder and crypto investor Michael Arrington is selling his apartment in Kiev, Ukraine as a non-fungible token. Arrington purchased the Ukraine apartment in 2017 through real estate platform Propy, using Ethereum smart contracts to settle the deal. In the past 4 years, the industry has, of course, evolved at a dizzying clip, and now Propy is auctioning the same property as a real estate-backed NFT. Joining us now to discuss is Michael Arrington and Propy CEO Natalia Karyaneva. Welcome, Michael and Natalia.
Hello.
Hello. Okay, first of all, just off the bat, why would anyone do this? Does it make things more complicated, more efficient? Why sell your apartment as an NFT?
Natalia?
Yeah, hello. Thank you so much for having us. Transitioning from traditional real estate sales to NFT is very, very exciting. And today it will happen for the first time. It means that one person can transition their property rights from one digital wallet to another digital wallet, as simple as that.
So is this connected to a deed that's recognized by the local municipality? How does that connection work?
Yes, absolutely. The registry in Ukraine has a record of the owner, which is an LLC owned by Michael Arrington since 2017. It is also recorded on the blockchain. When the NFT is sold, the Ukrainian registry will still have the same LLC as the owner, but the owner of the LLC will be different this time. The new owner will have to declare the LLC change, which Propy will assist with.
So, welcome on our show. My question then is, so there's no actual transfer of property. It's a transfer of the ownership of the LLC. So there's no stamp, for instance. You don't have to go down to the municipal offices and get, let's say, a stamp or pay for any transferred stamps. Is that correct?
Yes, that's absolutely correct. And this is why it's so fascinating, because now we can fully transition property rights on chain.
So is that LLC transfer counted as is that recognized as a legal contract in Ukraine, or would it also require some physical contract to be signed by the purchaser and Mr. Arrington?
I can jump in here a little bit on this. So it is recognized as a transfer in Ukraine. I have signed multiple documents behind the scenes, basically relinquishing any control that I have and setting up a rules-based system where things will happen, depending on what happens with the NFT auction, where I have no choice other than to transfer. But one important aspect of this is whoever is buying the NFT, and it's closing in a few hours, and there's enough bidders that we've reached the minimum and we're way above it. So it's happening. That winner will now have a right to take control of the LLC, but not an obligation. And so if they choose to take control of the LLC, they will then trigger a series of events that will include the Ukraine government, and title will change. If they choose not to, nothing really happens in the short term. They can then resell the NFT, whether they have taken control of the LLC or not. And that's why I'm excited about this, is that
this is effectively
the
an
NFT
option.
sale, it is an option. And it's an option that can be triggered repeatedly by new buyers. But the point is that this like I bought houses, I'm sure you guys have bought and sold houses. It takes forever. Weeks, months, and then afterwards, if you want to get a mortgage, it's another 100 to 120 days. This is all happening instantly in 4 hours. And there's another company called Helio, which I think hasn't officially announced, and it might be officially announced now, but it's Helio Lending, is willing to give a loan against the property instantly, again, not a 100-day period, without additional crypto collateral. So they're giving a loan against the NFT property itself. That's pretty revolutionary. To my knowledge, yeah.
Michael, is this?
I was going to ask: is that something that you considered potentially putting the NFT up as a collateral in, let's say, a DeFi loan?
Well, that's happening. So Helio is doing it now. They're agreeing to do it now, and I've tweeted it. It's HelioLending, I think, .com. But they kind of outlined it with diagrams where you literally, the NFT and the property underlying it is the collateral. So there's no additional crypto collateral.
And for people who understand DeFi, which is your audience, they understand how revolutionary that is, that there's no additional Bitcoin 2x collateral or Ether 2x collateral behind the loan. It's a big deal, I think. It's such a big deal, I wish I was buying, not selling.
Michael, for you, is this more of an experiment? You're just experimenting with NFTs, or do you hope to, do something larger scale with real estate and NFTs?
Oh, not me, Natalia. Look, I'm just here to be along for the ride. Natalia suggested that this property, which is still brand new and is just being finished, that it turns into an NFT. And I'm all for it. I don't care if I make money or don't make money. It's just so cool what she's doing and what she's creating here. A new legal transaction that I just can't wait. I hope the buyer takes out a loan, and I hope the buyer sells it on to somebody else. And then this starts a whole process where we see trillions of dollars of real estate coming into DeFi through Proppy or other companies as NFTs. It's very exciting. I'm excited.
Recently, the NFT market seems to have cooled a bit, though. I mean, there was so much hype over NFTs, and now we're kind of seeing that hype cooling down, and we're definitely, there's been less sales. Do you think that matters at all?
You're totally right. No, I think it's over. I think Bitcoin market is cool too. I think crypto is over. I mean, I'm joking. I think NFTs got a little overhyped. You're right, and but I'm still buying crypto punks left and right. I think what we need to see is you will see artists rise to the top with NFTs. And you'll see innovative new business models like what Natalia's doing that just make a ton of sense from a buyer's perspective, and the market will sort it all out. But, yeah.
Well, I'm interested in seeing how this develops and evolves. There's been a lot of chatter about real estate and how that can be tokenized and whatnot. So if this evolves as an NFT form, it will be really interesting to watch. But thank you, Michael and Natalia, for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
All right, that was tech founder and crypto investor Michael Arrington and Proppy CEO Natalia Karyaneva. All right, time to check in with CoinDesk Global Policy and Regulation Managing Editor Nick Day, who is also the editor of CoinDesk, the State of Crypto newsletter. Hello there, Nick. All right, so a lot of news out of El Salvador. I'm sure you have an opinion on that. Oh, apologize, Nick. I think we don't have your audio. You're muted.
Hello?
All right, you're back, Nick. Go ahead.
I had to replug my microphone. Anyways, this is a sign of the day. Around 1 or 2 a.m., it was either very early or very late, depending on your point of view. El Salvador officially passed a bill. The assembly recognizes Bitcoin as legal tender. I'm not sure if the president has signed it yet or not. He said in a Twitter space last night that he would either do so early in the morning or last night, depending on when the bill was actually passed. But regardless, by the end of today, El Salvador will be, one step closer to recognizing Bitcoin as the legal tender, meaning that, in 90 days, every business will have to accept Bitcoin if they are able to do so. Goods can be priced in Bitcoin. Taxes can be paid in Bitcoin. Transactions won't face the capital gains tax. The government will set up a trust to help businesses cash out Bitcoin if they don't want to hold on to their cryptocurrency and face some of the risks associated, such as price volatility.
Nick, this seems like this happened really fast. This just seems really, really fast. Is it? I mean, is this abnormally fast?
Yeah, it feels like it. I mean, I'm not too sure what the process is normally like in El Salvador, but the president announced his intention to introduce the bill on Saturday. He actually he filed the draft last night around 10 p.m. Eastern is when the draft bill first came out. So, within about 4 hours of introducing the bill, it was passed into law, which is the fastest I've seen any legislation move ever anywhere.
Yeah.
So speaking of fast legislation, what's going on in the U.S. Senate now? We have a bill that just happened here, and Senator Lummis, who's almost our co-host, had some involvement. Correct?
Yeah. So yesterday afternoon, the U.S. Senate finally passed its Endless Frontier Act. This is the massive technology bill that's basically been designed and whose stated purpose is to help the U.S. compete with China on the technology front. It's going to set up a new technology directorate within the National Science Foundation's remit. And as you said, Senator Lummis introduced an amendment that was adopted, basically requiring distributed ledger technologies to be one of the key focus areas for the directorate to pay attention to. What this means is the directorate will help fund, educational services and make sure that, when people are talking about different technologies such as biotechnology, artificial intelligence, robotics, distributed ledger will be part of it. A separate bill will also a separate amendment to the bill will also require the government to study the national security implications of the digital renminbi, otherwise known as the digital yuan, that China's been working on for quite a while now.
All right, Nick, thanks for the update.
Thank you.
All right, that was CoinDesk Managing Editor of Global Policy and Regulation, Nick Day. Don't forget to sign up for the State of Crypto newsletter on CoinDesk.com. I mentioned we were going to talk to Adam Back, and I believe we have him online. So joining us now to discuss breaking news developments out of El Salvador is Adam Back, CEO of Blockstream. Welcome, Adam.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
Great to have you. All right, so this is really exciting news, but it seems like it had really quick approval. You, Jack Mallers, from Strike, as well as Lightning, have actually been working on this a long time, I imagine. So tell me a bit about the process, your involvement, all that led to this moment.
Yeah, I mean, actually, in terms of the work on the ground, Jack Mallers had presented at the conference the past weekend that he had spent 3 months himself there with other members of the Strike team, which is a Bitcoin Lightning wallet, helping people in Salvador remittances and move money around more quickly using Bitcoin Lightning payments. So our involvement at Blockstream is we're an infrastructure company, so people tend to call us when they need to build higher scale or robust systems. So we have a Bitcoin Lightning network, which have a satellite network which broadcasts Bitcoin transactions globally, including coverage over Latin America and other parts of the world. So that's one way that we can help. We also have other technologies and hardware for use in the Bitcoin protocols.
Okay.
So, Adam, you're also involved in some solar venture now that Jack Dorsey's getting involved with, and where will it be? And are you going to be using Tesla's solar panels to do it?
Well, we're certainly interested to work with any major solar technology provider. Yeah, so we have a number of sites in Canada and in the US. So we're proposing to do this in one of our US sites. There are two main options to do. So one is to do solar plus overnight batteries, basically. And so we'll evaluate both of those. It'll be in a US site, one of the US sites.
So it takes several dozen terawatts to mine a Bitcoin, and a solar panel is just a few hundred watts of energy. So how big of a territory do you need to do this kind of mining operation using solar panels? I mean, won't you need quite a few? Yeah, I mean, some of the locations we're operating in are rural. So in particular, we have hundreds of acres of rural land to use for such purposes, as well as, modular mining equipment in kind of Google data center like container modules. So the space is not an issue, and I think, contrary to people's expectations perhaps, solar and batteries is actually very cost efficient if looked at from the long term. And bear in mind that most power infrastructure projects are in fact financed over a 30-year lifetime. The warranties on this type of equipment is similar duration, so it's quite feasible economically. I think the interesting thing with the Square project is that we intend with Square to make it open source, to open the the financials of it so that people can see, because there's a lot of people commenting and writing reports about ESG and green energy in mining, but we figured the simpler way to do it is just prove it
build the system, open the information. Typically, people won't open the financial information, but if we open it, then people can see for themselves. Actions speak louder than words, ultimately.
Adam, I'm wondering if you could talk more about the development out of El Salvador. How significant is this moment, and how do you see it helping the people in El Salvador in terms of will they be able to make micropayments? Will they be able to go to their stall and be able to make Bitcoin purchases without having to incur huge fees and make remittances? I believe over 6 billion or so in remittances out of El Salvador.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, as I understand it, Jack Mallers and the Strike team have been onboarding local citizens in El Salvador at the rate of about 20,000 users a day recently. And it's mostly using the Bitcoin Lightning protocol and the Lightning Strike remittance application, which provides conversion foreign currency conversion and banking integration as well. So Lightning is much lower cost and actually much faster technology. The settlement of transactions is instant, where Bitcoin transactions can take 10 minutes or so.
I hear a lot about this hyper Bitcoinization. Perhaps you can explain what that means.
Yeah, I mean, it's something written by the Nakamoto Institute a while ago. There's a kind of blog post about this, or kind of economic article about this hypothesized effect, and it's drawing on other kinds of economic event for its nomenclature, but basically to say that there may come a tipping point where, as opposed to currencies that go through hyperinflation, you might see a rapid adoption of Bitcoin past some tipping point, particularly where people have weak national currencies. Now, this isn't the case in El Salvador, because the actual local currency they use is an imported one, the US dollar, which is relatively stable. But so it's a longer term effect, and we'll see if it plays out. Today Bitcoin's adoption is getting to interesting levels. But again, a country adopting Bitcoin and making it legal tender so that any local vendors are obliged to receive it is certainly news in this space. And generally, Bitcoin has seen developments faster than people expect. Faster than internet time even.
Adam, quickly, just to change the topic for a second, we're about to end, but you tweeted recently about problems with crypto media, that how Bitcoin should have its own media. I'm curious what is your issue with the way that the media is currently carrying crypto, and why do you think that needs to change?
Yeah, it's just a comment about particular media, which is to oftentimes conflict facts. So, for example, the recent news that Bitcoin was hacked because the FBI recovered some coins from ransomware attackers. As far as people, it was actually being some people to sell Bitcoin, which didn't really make a lot of sense, in the sense that clearly the FBI hasn't hacked Bitcoin, and in fact, what happened was, as far as we can see, Krebs Security Online has an analysis of this, that what happened is they got a subpoena for a server associated affiliate, so a hacking affiliate associated with the hackers that had an online wallet as part of that service, and they were able to locate and subpoena and get password reset access. Mm-hmm. And fortunately, actually able to recover some of the ransomware, ransom coins. So that's great as a kind of outcome for it. But it's certainly very confused in terms of accuracy of reporting. I would say that's the point.
All right, Adam.
Only there was a site that covered it all the time.
Yeah, if only there was a media site that covered crypto all the time. Adam, thank you so much for joining this morning on CoinDesk TV. Appreciate your insights.
Thank you.
All right, that was Blockstream CEO Adam Back. That's it for First Mover. Thank you, Emily Parker and Lawrence Lewitinn. I'll be back live at 10:30 a.m. for Coin Toss and at 3 p.m. for All About Bitcoin. You're watching CoinDesk TV.